This is a presentation of the Sports Source Digital Network, presented by Hearthside Bank.
Welcome into the Sports Source Digital Network. I'm John Pennington, joined by VFL Ollie Lane right here, VFL Mike Stowell right here. Want to talk about quarterback competitions. You guys went through them when you were playing on the offensive line of Tennessee. Went through them as a team. I mean, you saw them, experienced them. You've got a guy in Jake Merklinger who's been around for a couple years now. You've got George McIntyre, who's a true freshman. He's probably at the back end of this pack, but may have the most talent of the three. And then you've got Joey Aguilar, who's coming in at the last minute. About as last minute as you can get, as a matter of fact. So my question is, when you get a quarterback competition like that, I would assume if it's two guys who've been on the team, there may be factions. I'm buddies with this guy, that quarterback's buddies with these receivers. In this case, you've got guys who know Merklinger. They don't know Aguilar. In terms of getting together these unofficial workouts, is it going to be harder for Aguilar to line people up than it is Merklinger? Because he knows them.
You know, I feel like in the past it's been more of group efforts. So I feel like as organizing people to get together, that's more of like a team thing versus an individual. So I don't think it'd be as difficult. But, you know, there are still, you know, packs form within locker rooms from time to time. And I mean, with guys that have been around, like you trust those guys because you know them. And I mean, when you got transfers in like Aguilar, you know, you just haven't seen him really play, so you don't know what all he can do. I mean, I remember when Milton and Hendon came in, it was just like, all right, these two new guys, I don't know what they can do. Let's see what they can do. And then as you start to form relationships and stuff, it builds. But obviously there wasn't even really somebody there already that was going to be in that quarterback competition at that time versus how it is now, where there's already a guy that's been there, but he hasn't played. He was behind Nico last year and then kind of got thrown into as QB1 that they put on there during the spring when Nico left. So, I mean, it's hard to say if a packs have formed yet. But as far as like getting work done, I don't think that's going to be a big issue.
I think the biggest thing Aguilar can do coming in is to truly separate himself from as far as like he's got to make the throws, he's got to take command, and don't take command like I'm the quarterback, you follow me. Because if I'm on offensive line, I'm like, oh yeah, that's not going to happen, brother. So I think he's got to do it with humility, but for him to come in and just instantly distance himself from everybody else, that's how everybody all of a sudden will fall in line quickly. If he comes in and he struggles and we're not sure which quarterback it is or if he's not grasping the offense, that can cause problems. But they went and got him for a reason, right? There's a reason we had a backup quarterback and we had a QB1, and then he left and we just didn't say, okay, you're automatically QB1. There's a reason he was a backup. Aguilar coming in, and I think the coaches know that, and I'm sure they're going to have a conversation. Huepel will have a conversation of, look, man, I'm a quarterback. This is what you need to do. And he's going to walk him through that process. But he's got to take control, and he's got to take control by setting example. Lead by example. If you lead by example, people will fall into place. If you try and lead by, I'm the guy, you're going to get mutiny on your hands.
Well, that's interesting. We had Sterling Hinton in here when Aguilar first signed, and we were talking. I asked him about, the quarterback's supposed to be the guy that gets everybody on the same page, et cetera, and, gives everybody the marching orders. He's like, yeah, but if you're the new guy in, they know the marching orders better than you do. They're going to get you in the right place. He said, you got to take care of your own business before you start getting everybody else on the right page. You got to make sure you're on the right page. It was an interesting deal. In terms of the competition between those guys, Sterling said that if he were Merklinger at this point, he'd be ticked. And that's the way he thinks that he ought to approach it as, you didn't give it to me? All right, I'm going to take this football and I'm going to stick it where the sun don't shine. I'm going to make you realize you should have just handed it to me. That's the attitude he thinks you need to take. You go back to the legendary stories of Peyton Manning telling Brandon Stewart, yeah, we'll go over here and we'll watch tape at this time. And he changed the hours and Stewart gets over there and the door's locked. So good competition for, like, you play Andy Kelly and Sterling Hinton. They switched in the middle of the year. They actually split some time during it. But those guys liked each other.
Yeah.
Where do you want it to be? Because Merklinger and Aguilar and McIntyre don't know each other.
Right.
Do you want them to be buddies and pals? Is that good for the team? Or is it better if those two are really going at it? You get the better guy because they don't like each other and there's a general, I'm going to whip you to get that gig.
Yeah, I think Sterling's right. Merklinger needs to have an edge.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this, I'm going to prove everybody what I can do. But it's not like, well, you did me wrong, I'm going to prove you wrong. But it's more of like, okay, you guys don't trust me. Or,
That's
hey,
what
like,
he meant. Yeah, it wasn't an ugly way.
But like, all right, I'm going to take over. All right, I'm going to take over. And that's the right mentality to take in there. But at the same time, your quarterback's got to be on the same page. And you guys have to be in the room together. And, as much as it is when you're trying to battle a guy who's nipping at your tail to take your spot, like you got to teach him, you got to work with him, you got to do what's right for the team. Because if you do those things, it falls into place. But if you kind of distance yourself from each other, that's only hurting the whole program.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have quarterbacks on different pages. Your receivers are going to sense that. Your linemen are going to sense that. The football team's going to sense that, and you're not going to have an opportunity to gel. And it's just, you got to work together in a cohesive way as a quarterback. It's like, hey, you know what? I'm going to give it my best. And if he beats me out, he beats me out.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I saw it with Hendon and Joe. I mean, they were best friends. I mean, it didn't matter who was playing or who wasn't playing. They were still best friends. They were talking about everything on the sidelines. And that's what you want. You want your whoever's going to be the backup quarterback to be there on the sidelines watching everything so he can give information to that quarterback. You don't want them gatekeeping things from him or anything. You want them to have that open communication between each other. But, I mean, I think you're right. As Merklinger, I need to come in like, this is my spot to lose. I'm going to go and give it everything that I got because I'm the one that has been here and I want to earn this position. But there is a difference between good competition and bad competition. And I don't think you want them just, going head after head against each other every single day, just, at each other's throats, because that's not going to breed good culture for the team. But if you have a good-hearted competition between each other, like I'm going to do this better than you did, but we're still buddies at the end of the day. That's what you want it to be kind of set up as.
All right, give me the keys for Tennessee to get this thing right. If you were coaching over there, if you were setting up this competition, watching over it, what are you doing? What are you making sure happens to make sure you get the best out of this?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I'm going to do, going into my HR realm, everything's got to have that perceived fairness. Everybody's got to think that, all right, the competition happened fair. This guy won it because he was really the better quarterback. Even if the coaches have the idea that this is going to be the guy, they still need to set it up in somewhat of a way to fool the team that, oh, no, he actually won and beat him out for the position. I think that's step number one. That's going to get all the people, the whole team to kind of gather around that quarterback if they feel that he's actually earned that position.
That goes back to, I don't remember if you were on the sideline. You were doing Vol Network sideline reports for a couple of seasons, right?
Yeah, several.
I'm trying to remember the Rick Clausen, Eric Ainge deal, where that was one that Ainge's sophomore year, Clausen had played a little bit better in preseason, but they gave it to Ainge anyway. And it kind of comes to a rift on the team and everything. And then, of course, Ainge came back as a junior and senior and lit up the record books, wound up getting drafted. But that sophomore year wasn't great for him. And Clausen, there are a lot of people who felt Clausen won the thing in preseason, didn't get it. And it caused frictions on the team. Don't know if you were there for that year covering that or not, but thoughts on how you get those things wrong, how important it is to get it right. It's not just you're playing the wrong guy, but you can, if you don't do what Ollie's saying and it doesn't look like a fair competition, if it's clear you got your thumb on the scale for the guy you're paying more money, even though we think this guy's better, that can backfire.
It can, and I think, but here's the thing, is they're going to be able to tell really quickly. And, if I'm Josh Huepel, I set it up fair, but I tank the jury, right? I put him in situations, if he's my guy, I'm going to put him in situations where I'm going to line up my best receiver against a backup DB, and I know he's going to make that throw and make him look right. Because everybody's like, oh, dang, he just made that great play, or, oh, he checked off right, or what have you. So if he...
It's the opposite of your HR approach.
I mean,
it's perceived.
Right.
Yes.
Perceived, right? So, but you, if that's your guy, now I think he's going to lay it out there and see what happens. Again, I think he's seen enough that he knows what the backup quarterback will be like and what he can and can't do. He's still trying to figure out what Aguilar will do. So time will tell on that. But I think they're like, he's probably our guy because we went and got him because we just didn't see enough from the development of, okay, this guy's going to run our program.
When Joe Milton got here, everyone was like wowed by his athletic ability. Everybody thought he was going to be the guy. Who won that job? in preseason camp? Be honest.
Yeah, I mean,
Did Hooker or Milton?
Because just like he said, they set it up in a situation where, hey, let's highlight Joe's arm. He's going to look really good in practice. And I've said it for years. I mean, Joe was a great practice player, and that's no knock on his game at all. But
Right.
Joe was great in practice, looked amazing in practice. Hendon was not the best practice player. That's when he would sometimes make mistakes that were stupid mistakes and stuff like that in practice. But that competition, because it's a weird competition, because Joe really did win that competition in practice because he was the better quarterback in practice. But then when you get in that game situations, practice isn't always like the game. And so Hendon was just a true gamer. He knew how to step up to that stage and get it done. And that's not to say Joe didn't, but Joe could obviously put that on better in practice. And so that made it seem like he was the easy option. So.
You ever go through that where you thought, are we going with the right guy here? I don't mean to throw anybody under the bus. We don't have to go with names. But
I didn't.
CFL or wherever.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, we had a quarterback. My quarterback was Billy Joe Tolliver in the CFL, right? Billy Joe was just Texas guy, a gunslinger, and the guy in front of him, or that was in until they brought Billy Joe in, was from Connecticut and was an okay guy, but it was clearly Billy Joe was the guy that was going to do it, and they brought him in for a reason. I think this is kind of the same situation. I think over time and practice that will vet itself out. It's really interesting to see that, you can see like Hendon's the guy, and, maybe after a few games we'll see that. Maybe Aguilar is a great practice player, but when the game gets going, the bullets fly, he freezes up. And so we'll see how that goes and see if the coaches will make that switch or not, or if he takes off well, all things avoided.
I don't want to get into the specifics because both these guys are still around. One of them's on our show. But you were there during the Sterling Hinton, Andy Kelly thing. And they were pretty good. They wound up supporting each other, but they were playing both those guys there for a while. Andy would get a series, or Sterling would start, and Andy would get a series, and vice versa and stuff. Undefeated to start under Sterling, lose to Alabama, then it goes to Andy, and he's undefeated the rest of the way. So both those guys have something to say about it. But in terms of a team, what was that like, knowing that we're just flipping guys? Okay,
yeah.
So we're in here now, and Sterling's our guy. Oh, they're bringing Andy out for his series.
Yeah.
It worked, clearly 11-1, but you'd rather just have one guy out there at all times, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, if you look, and specifically earlier in the season, we went over to UCLA and we beat UCLA. I think they were number 5 or 6 six in the country, right? And it was Sterling's legs and his ability to roll out and make the pass on the run, and then out Andy in the pocket. And so those are the kind of things were offset that really, I think Walt Harris was our offensive coordinator, did a fantastic job of using the strength of Sterling and the strength of Andy. 2 totally different quarterbacks.
Good point.
Right? And so as the season went on, I think they realized, okay, we got Alvin Harper, we got Carl Pickens, we've got, all these guys. Let's use that to our advantage. Now, Sterling was in there, right, and when he would go in, and like I played a lot with him as we'd come in and roll out the second team, did what he needed to do. And so I think, again, each one played to the best of their abilities, and Andy fit the kind of form of what they're trying to do later in the season, but Sterling was a huge contributor.
But as a team, though, are you sitting there, it's quarterback X and quarterback Y. You said, just pick one of these guys.
Yeah,
pick one and go.
Not
you
so
didn't
much.
have a problem because we're 2 different styles.
Because we were 6-5 the year before, and we're like, dude, we're winning. I don't care what we do.
You're worse than that the year before. You were
5-6.
5-6. Yeah.
6. We I tried to steal.
0-6, and then won the last
0-6-5. Yeah, and
but you had, I guess. That's a little different situation, though, because of what you said. Yeah. Those are, one's a drop-back passer, one's a mobile guy.
Yeah.
2 different guys. So it's like you've got a specialty guy to do what you need, as opposed to 2 guys who, Aguilar is probably a little bit more athletic than Merklinger, we'll see, but it runs a little bit more. But it's not a night and day difference in terms of what you got, like it was with Hinton and Kelly.
Look at Hendon Hooker and Milton.
Joe Milton.
Right?
Yeah.
Joe Milton did not want to run the ball.
No.
Hooker was great at seeing things, tucking, making the moves.
Take off on his own. It was almost like Milton needed to be pushed a little.
And there's a couple games where they said, "All right, we're gonna run the QB draw this." And I remember he scrambled for 80 yards because he wasn't playing.
Yeah.
And so they, having similar quarterbacks but not similar as far as how their styles are with those 2, I think that's where that kind of change was.
But then if you play that on the other side too, like you're saying, they got two different strengths, so it was kind of schemed up where it will work well. Well, you go back to, was it like 2019, 2020, you go through JG, Brian Maurer, Harrison Bailey, JT Shroud. That as a team was frustrating because you're just like, who's the guy?
Yeah.
Who's going to play? Because, it's not like they all had different skill sets. They all kind of did the same thing, but it's just like, we can't find one that's going to work for us.
Well, and it was almost like watching that one, it was kind of like, it's like, okay, he got in until he makes a mistake.
Yeah, no, he's out, and next one's in.
You're going to have to let somebody make a mistake and stay in there at some point.
Exactly, yeah.
But there was a lot of, there was a quick hook that year.
Oh, yeah.
And it was one after another. You're right. And then, of course, Maurer kept having the issue.
The helicopter tackles,
Yeah.
So, well, and then, when you're thinking about it, too, as an offensive lineman, all four of those quarterbacks had different snap counts, too, which made it just frustrating for an offensive line to try to hone in on, all right, who's calling it this time? Who's saying the words this time?
That's an interesting take. We did another video, you can find it on the digital network, where we talked about, or you talked about, the offensive line and all the issues they faced. That's one we didn't bring up, is the fact that if you wind up in some sort of competition that isn't easily decided, that's going back and forth through the year, that's another issue the offensive line's going to have to deal with, whoever's playing center. That's a great point.
Yeah.
All right. VFL Ollie Lane, VFL Mike Stowell, appreciate both of you doing this, and we will see you next time on the Sports Source Digital Network. Click the thumbs up, leave a comment, hit that little bell, hit subscribe. See you next time.